800 years ago, the Kakatiya kingdom was a powerful dynasty in South India, yet near the height of its power, it was destroyed. Why was this, and what makes it such a fascinating culture to look at in the modern times? Hi everyone, my name is Manish, and welcome to the Manish Niche. As you may know, I've been working on a video game called Throne of Urugulu, which looks at the Kakatiya kingdom from South India. Now, I haven't really summarized its history and culture and the game mechanics itself yet, so I want to go through those things today, talk a bit about what makes this such an interesting period of history to explore, and how the game itself will explore that, and what kinds of things you can do as the player. So first I'm going to dive into the history. So I'm going to have to start with some geography, so bear with me. This is a topological rendering of the Indian subcontinent, and you can see that it's defined clearly by two mountain ranges. On the west we have the Afghani mountains, and in the north we have the Himalayas. Past those mountains it's a flat plain with very little changes in the terrain. What this meant was that when conquerors were able to cross the mountains, they could quite easily expand across those plains and dominate northern India very rapidly. So this happened in the 1100s, 12th century in medieval India, when invaders from Afghanistan, or modern day Afghanistan, were able to invade and very quickly take Delhi, which is located near the north. For some time the Rajput kingdoms to the south of that were able to hold out, but over the next 100 years the invaders were able to conquer much of India and were able to bypass the Rajasthani kingdoms and expand to the south. Now in the center of the Indian subcontinent we can see this kind of raised area defined by several mountain ranges. Within this area it is known as the Deccan Plateau. It's a high altitude, relatively flat plain that again allows conquerors or any kingdoms that are flourishing in this area to be quickly controlled by other kingdoms that can easily expand without defensible geographic features. In the 13th century, one particular sultanate of the Delhi Sultanate, the Alauddin Khilji as some say, was able to take power. He is shown in this drawing on the right hand side, and his predecessor is on the left. I believe he was executed after Alauddin Khilji took power. This marked an era of conquest where the Sultanate were able to expand to the south of India. Hearing many tales of the wealth and power of these southern kingdoms, they wished to conquer them and take their wealth. By the late 13th century, the Sultanate was able to conquer the Yadavas, also known as the Suna dynasty, in central South India. They bypassed the eastern Gangas, which were known at the time as the Kalinga dynasty, and attacked the Kakatiyas, shown in blue on this map. Other contemporary dynasties at the time were the Hoysalas and the Pandya dynasty to the very south. The land between these kingdoms in central South India consisted of the Deccan Plateau, which was relatively flat, exposed land, low hills, and hard to defend. You can see here from this aerial photo that the land today is still very flat. There are some hills around, but these can be easily bypassed, and there are no natural borders to protect against invasion. By the 14th century, the Sultanate was threatening all of South India and was eventually able to destroy the Kakatiya kingdom. That gave it access to more of the southern kingdoms, and it was able to quickly dominate the entire region. Now let's look at the culture of the Kakatiyas and what made them so fascinating. So they were renowned for their architecture. Here is Ramabha Temple in modern day Telangana, and this is very typical of the Kakatiya style architecture. Very intricate carvings, very detailed stonework, and you can see here they've got lots of tiered structures, both horizontally and vertical, with columns carved in intricate detail. And this kind of style of architecture was advanced and built across the land. So the Kakatiyas were so wealthy that they could afford to build many such temples, a number of which still survive today or have been reconstructed from the ruins. Another thing that's very fascinating about the Kakatiyas is that they were very involved with things like dance and music. So one of the Kakatiya generals himself was actually the author of a treatise in what is called Berini Natya, which is a form of warrior dance that contributed to the modern day form of dance known as Kuchipudi. So here you can see an example of a man in the modern era performing this style of dance. The Kakatiyas also mined the incredible gem known as the Kohinoor diamond, which currently resides with the British Crown Jewels. There's a long and bloody history around this diamond, which I might explore at a later date. Let me know if you're interested in that story in the comments. Also, the Kakatiyas are renowned for having one of the few female queens. This is Queen Rudramadevi, who ruled for about 30 years in the 13th century, the Kakatiyas. Getting on to the story of my game, I mentioned that the Kakatiyas were at the gateway to the South Indian kingdoms. They were very well known at the time for their fortifications, and you can see an example here of the perimeter wall around what was their capital of Urugalu. They had many layers to their defense. This is one of the few remaining examples, and we can see here that they were able to be that bastion against these invading forces. Another example of their architecture and their legacy on the land is are these carvings which form these gateways in their main temple areas, which today remain an iconic symbol of Telangana. The question I had when I was visiting these places myself was thinking, what if they didn't fall? What if a leader arose that was able to defend against these invasions and strengthen the nation? How would that have changed their culture and the course of Indian history? Let's talk about the gameplay now of Throne of Urugalu. The story begins with you taking charge of the throne of the kingdom of the Kakatiyas to be able to influence the nation, to strengthen its military, strengthen its traditions and cultures that can enable it to withstand invasion. This is a visual novel style game where you play the role of the character and you must face different challenges. And there's two main mechanics to your gameplay to consider. One is the dynamic of merit versus favor. Merit means recognizing and rewarding skills, success, proven competence. Favor, on the other hand, is rewarding those who are close to you, those who have demonstrated loyalty and trust. You must balance these two extremes. You may promote someone who is extremely good at their job, but doesn't trust you or doesn't work in your best interests. On the other hand, you may promote people who are extremely loyal to you, but not necessarily the best or the most competent at their work. The other dynamic is of honesty versus deception. Are you direct and open in your dealings with people? Or do you withhold some information or withhold your own decisions from certain key people that may allow you to gain additional political favor with some people or to win battles or win other engagements? However, that may come at the cost of loyalty and of support from your people. So that's a brief summary of the history and the gameplay of my game Throne of Urugalu. If you're interested in learning more, you can follow my channel or subscribe to my email newsletter. I'm going to put the link in the comments or the description for you to keep following to hear about upcoming information. And I'm also currently looking for playtesters. So if you're keen on playtesting, you've done a bit of work before with game development or with software testing, then let me know and I can work with you on that. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.